I'm a lifeguard. There's someone who won't get out of the deep end of the pool. The storm clouds have been rolling in for 20 minutes now. A dark, angry gray. I was sitting in the usual lifeguard chair, just waiting for the first peal of thunder so I could blow the whistle and order everyone out of the pool. The pool was crowded. It had been a scorching 92°F earlier, although now with the impending storm it had cooled down. I scanned the people swimming, a few scattered seniors, a whole boatload of rambunctious kids. Not a lot of young or childless people. I don't blame them. I wouldn't want to come here either. Lightning shot across the sky. I grabbed the whistle and blew. Everyone made their way to the stairs. Some of the kids were screaming, upset that swim time was over. Oh, boo-hoo. A saggy old man hefted himself out of the pool. A cute mom in a bikini ran past to chase her running toddler. The thunder rumbled in. I felt the first few drops of rain hit my shoulders. I checked the time, almost 4:30. We had to keep everyone out of the pool for 30 minutes whenever we saw lightning. As the pool cleared out, though, I noticed there was one person who wasn't moving towards the exit. They were way at the deep end of the pool. Facing away from me, I think I could only see their head above the water. Just a dark oval bobbing up and down on the surface. I grabbed my whistle and blew it again, angrily, shrilly. The head didn't react. And then I felt bad. This person could be deaf or hearing impaired. I climbed down from my post and started walking towards the deep end of the pool. Everyone else was out of the pool now. Most of them had cleared the area, too, either going home or to the little snack bar we had at the far edge of the property. I stared at the head bobbing up and down, and a sick feeling took hold in my chest. Something felt off about it, but I couldn't put my finger on why. Another finger of lightning shot across the sky. "Excuse me," I called, from about 10 yards away. "You have to get out of the pool. There's a lightning." They didn't respond. I stepped forward, my heart starting to pound. Something is wrong here. Really, really wrong. If I were alone, I definitely would have run the other way. But there were still other lifeguards and tons of people back there. I stepped closer, and I could see them better. It was pretty dark from the storm, and the rain was now disturbing the surface of the pool, but it looked like a woman with long, dark hair, just treading water in the deep end of the pool. Why would you just float there like that, in the same position, treading water? Even if she's deaf, didn't she notice everyone else in the deep end got out? Didn't she see the lightning? The rain picked up, starting to pelt down. The woman didn't seem to react. As I got closer, I could make out her soaking wet hair melting into the pool like she just dunked her head in. I could see her pale shoulders poking above the water. Wait! Unless she was wearing a pale beige bathing suit, she was naked under the water. Okay, this is bad. Really bad. I stopped and turned around to call out to Drew, the other lifeguard on duty. But when I turned, I froze. The entire pool area was empty. Not only empty, abandoned. The umbrellas were grayish and tattered. The wooden picnic tables were splintering. Even the pool water was murky green, darkening to black beneath the surface. What the hell? I must be dreaming. This can't be real. This can't. A splash made me turn back towards the woman. I looked up to see that she'd disappeared. Just a roiling, turbulent spot of water where she'd just been. What? Where'd she go? I immediately jumped away from the edge of the pool in case she was coming towards me. But I didn't see her anywhere. I scanned the murky water, but it was impossible to see into it. F this! I'm going home. I broke into a run towards the pool entrance. That's when I saw her. She was climbing out of the pool, taking the steps one by one at the shallow end. Her dark hair trailed all the way to her rear. Her skin looked impossibly white in the dark shadows from the storm. almost like she was faintly glowing. She turned and slowly started making her way towards me. What do? I could try to run past her. There wasn't much space between her and the fence, though. I could run the other way around the pool and to the exit, but she'd just turn around and intercept me. And where is everyone? She was a little closer now. I could make out the two black dots of her eyes on her face. They were too dark, like her eyes were pure black, or like she just had hollow pits where her eyes should have been. I couldn't tell. I ran over to the fence. I stuck my foot in the chain link and began to climb. I could only do it because I wasn't wearing shoes, manipulating my toes through the gaps. I got halfway up and glanced back. Oh no. She was so much closer than I would have expected. Only about 15 feet away. She was naked and pale and bluish, like she'd drowned in the water. Her face was gaunt, her mouth hung open, and her eyes were pure black. I scrambled up the fence. A cold hand locked onto my ankle. I didn't look down. I couldn't. I knew it was her hand, yanking me back. I kicked and screamed. Let me go. I think my fear delighted her. I heard a little sound escape from her lips, as if she were laughing, but didn't quite know how. I kicked as hard as I could. I felt her fingernails claw into my ankle, but then I was free, and I scrambled the rest of the way up the fence. I plummeted to the ground. My body hit hard. I lay there for a second, gasping for breath. When I opened my eyes, the sounds of the pool returned. I sat up and noticed I was still on the pool side of the fence. But all the people were back. The pool was clear. The storm was passing now, warm sunlight starting to brighten the shadows. Hey man, you okay? I looked up to see Drew standing over me. What? What happened? I dunno. You don't remember? Did you knock yourself out or something? What time is it? I croaked. 5:23. It was about 4:30 when I blew the whistle. I lost an hour. Did you see her? I asked. Who? That weird woman in the deep end of the pool. She wasn't coming out when I blew the whistle. No, I don't think so. I went home rattled. But after dinner, I started to feel sick too. Slight fever. Nauseous. I chalked it up to nerves, but it got worse and worse and worse. Until I was crouched over the toilet, gagging and retching. I'd thrown up everything, and I was still retching, my entire body convulsing. Just when I thought I couldn't take it anymore, something shot out of my mouth and plopped into the toilet. A tangled clump of long, black hair. Story 2. I work at an ice rink. I saw something that chilled me to the bone. I know I should be grateful for a chill job at an ice rink, especially as we gear up for a scorching summer. I'm thinking about quitting though. I'm too creeped out to go back there. I needed a summer job, and I was a little surprised by the lack of competition for a gig at the local rink. My first day was right after the interview. The pay wasn't great, but the expectations weren't bad either. Help customers. Keep the place clean. Restock the restrooms. That sort of work. The most important task was a team effort. Keep the rink temperature below freezing at all times. That made sense. It's an ice rink, not a swimming pool. At regular intervals, I'd check the thermostat to make sure the rink remained between 19 and 29 degrees. Doing so ensured that the main room was always nice and chilly, my own frosty oasis in the middle of town. My boss was the face of the business, so he was usually up front serving guests or back in his office. Whenever he came out, he'd check the rink's temperature, even if I had just checked it myself. One day, I clocked in a few minutes late and found the boss hustling toward the thermostat. He seemed startled when he noticed me. "Seen anybody around here yet?" he asked. I checked the clock to see that we were still nearly an hour away from opening. "Not yet," I said. "Good," he smiled. Then he asked me to help set up a new game in the arcade. It was a massive cabinet, big screen, two-seater bench, huge speakers. The delivery men rolled it in and moved it into place, so now it was time to plug it in and see how it ran. I plugged in the power cord and fired up the cabinet. The screen flickered, the speakers roared to life, and then the whole place went dark. I looked out into the main room to see the boss sprinting for the breaker box. The girl at the concession counter dropped what she was doing and disappeared into the kitchen. I left the arcade to apologize for the mishap, and then I noticed the smell. It was like someone left meat out and went on vacation. The stench was heavy and sickening, so strong I could taste it. I figured it must have come from the kitchen. My boss was in the back, sweating bullets at the breaker box. "The wiring's screwy," he said when he saw me. "One thing goes wrong, and the whole place loses power." He snapped a few switches back into place and closed the box. Behind us, machines hummed again. He sighed and wiped the sweat from his forehead. "It's just an old building, that's all," he said. He checked the thermostat and stayed by the rink until it was time to open. The smell had mostly dissipated by the time customers started filtering in, but it was hard to forget. It was still in my clothes when I went home. A few days later, the boss had to run errands, leaving me and the concession girl to hold the fort down. Everything seemed fine at first, but then a group of kids approached me from the arcade. They said the new cabinet wasn't working right. The screen kept freezing, and they couldn't get their quarters back. My boss had briefly showed me how to troubleshoot these machines, so I did what I could to diagnose the problem. It took longer than I'd like to admit. I was hesitant to unplug the game and restart it, but I tried everything I could to get the game working again. If I had to refund a few quarters, I imagined the boss wouldn't mind. At some point, I realized I was sweating. I dressed warm for work since the main room stays in the mid-50s, but I suddenly felt too hot. I told the kids I'd be right back and tried not to look conspicuous as I made my way to the rink thermostat. 30 degrees. Still below freezing. I returned to the arcade to realize that it was the air conditioner that was struggling. It was blazing hot outside, and our /C was fighting hard to keep the room cool. I finally got the game up and running, then ran by the concession counter for lunch. The late afternoon rush kicked in, and I was on my feet for hours. Without the boss up front, I was renting out skates, checking the restrooms, and doing my best to keep the new arcade game running. I didn't get a moment to catch my breath until closing time. I shut off the lights and flipped the front door sign from open to closed, then realized it had been hours since I checked the rink thermostat. I knew I had to take a look before I left for the night. 35 degrees. Not great, not terrible. I adjusted the target temperature and waited until the system started pumping more coolant beneath the ice. I headed back to the door, but stopped at the hallway to the restrooms. There was someone standing at the end of the hall. I was startled, but more than anything, I just wanted to go home. "We're closed," I said. "I have to lock up now." He didn't move. "Do you need to use the restroom first?" I thought maybe he wasn't feeling well. Concession food can be rough on some people's stomachs. He turned to face me. The hall was dark except for the exit light over my head, which cast a dim red glow over his face. His head hung low, and he wore a vacant expression, like he was asleep on his feet. Then he lifted his head to look at me. I didn't say a word. The more I stared, the more the features of his face seemed to be out of place, like it was just a mask. His eyes looked cloudy in the red light, but I could tell that he was looking at me. Then an intense shiver came over me. It was an ice-cold chill that pierced to my core. It had to be fear, but I wrapped my arms close to warm up. Then he was gone. I looked behind me, then back down the hall. There was no one there. I didn't stick around to check the restrooms. I got out of there as soon as I could. The next day, I told my boss about the man in the hall. He listened quietly and took a while before speaking. "What did he look like?" he asked. I described the lifeless face and the dull eyes, feeling a hint of a chill just recalling it. "And he was dressed a little outdated?" I thought about it. The man wore a suit, but maybe the lapels were a little too big, the pants flared a bit wide. That wasn't what concerned me at the time, though. "Maybe so." My boss nodded. "Did the ice rink go above freezing yesterday?" "It did," I said. "But I fixed it before leaving last night." "We've got to keep an eye on it," he said. Then he left for his office. "You'll see people like that around here. It'll be okay. Just keep an eye on the rink." I looked over to the concession counter. My coworker had been listening. She only met my eyes for a second, then she went about her work. We'd be opening soon, and the heat was sure to drive a crowd our way. It's a brutal summer, and when the temperatures rise so high, everybody blasts their A/C. It puts a serious strain on the power grid. Yesterday, we tipped the meter too far. The power went out across downtown. My boss went out to fire up the generator, telling me to make sure nobody went near the ice. At first, customers sat in the dining area and waited to see if the power would return. I couldn't blame them. The air was still cool, and anything was better than going back out into the heat. As the day went on, though, the chill faded and there was no point in sticking around. Our customers left, and it was just me and my coworker. Our boss clearly wasn't going to get generator up and running anytime soon, so I hoped that he would just let us go. My coworker went outside to ask. The air was starting to turn muggy, so I went to check the thermostat. It had a backup battery, so I could at least see the rink's temperature. 40 degrees. It was only going to climb from there. With my back to the ice, I felt something move just behind me. The stench of spoiled meat returned, thick in the humid air. My legs quivered, but I ran for the door. I was in a hurry, so I decided to cut through the ice rink. That was a stupid idea. I started slipping immediately and fell hard on my back. I looked up into a crowd of dead faces. There were dozens of them. Dead, bloody bodies, all standing on the ice. Their faces were frozen in horrified, silent howls, while some looked as if they had been beaten or crushed. They all watched me with pale, cloudy eyes. I heard myself scream, and I scrambled for footing. I fell again and again, trying to crawl across the ice. Finally, I reached the other side and bolted to the exit. As I pushed through the doors, I could see that my coworker's car was gone. She had the right idea. I didn't stop to lock up. I took today off and called my boss to tell him what happened. He didn't question any of it. He seemed to know what was going on, so I asked for an explanation. "You know the gravel lot down the street?" he asked. "There used to be an office building there. It collapsed years ago when I was just a kid. A lot of people died. I had never heard the whole story before. Apparently, there were so many casualties, the local morgue was overwhelmed. They had to store bodies at the ice rink to keep them cool. They were there on the ice for days until they could be moved or identified. Now, I understand what I saw, but that doesn't make it any better. I don't want to go to work tomorrow. I hope you guys like this video. If you did, make sure like, comment, share, and subscribe the channel Mark Stories.